Hey guys, EckhartsLadder here with an interesting bit of Star Wars news. So today we got our first look at the cover for General Hux's issue of Age of Resistance. And for those who don't know, Age of Resistance is basically a mini comic line which will have issues dedicated to the characters of the sequel trilogy, including Hux, Supreme Leader Snoke, Phasma, Rey, Finn, and more. Anyway, the second I saw these solicitations on my Facebook, by the way, quick shout out to the page Upcoming Star Wars Books and Comics, something immediately caught my eye. Hux's ship for his Age of Resistance comic, and specifically for the puzzle piece variant, is not a known First Order design. It's not the Resurgent, the Supremacy, or anything like that, but it gets even weirder. The ship behind him is clearly a new take on the fan-designed Mandator 2 class dreadnought, or perhaps the Mandator 1, whatever. Regardless, the Mandator 1 and 2 existed in Star Wars Legends lore, and due to the presence of the Mandator 4 in The Last Jedi implicitly in canon, but was never given a proper canonical design, even in Legends. However, as I alluded to earlier, there is a fan-created design for the Mandator line, made by well-known modeler Evil Jedi with the help of others, and I'll include a link to that and give proper credit down in the description. Anyway, this model is so prominent and so prevalent, mostly through its inclusion in numerous Empire at War mods, that many online have mistakenly thought that the design was official. And we can clearly tell that this ship behind Hux is based on that model. It's got the exact same shape, it's got that interesting 3 prongs near the front of the ship, it's got the same superstructure, and I mean, just looking at it you can tell that they are the same ship. So what's going on here? The first option is that the Mandator 2 design is purposefully being brought into the new canon. One thing notable, I think, is that this orientation of the Mandator is not one that you'd find with an easy Google search. So either someone went looking deeper, or they booted up Empire at War with the mod, or somehow inspected the model in another way. So I don't think this is a case where someone sees one of Fractal Sponge's renders of the Imperial Star Destroyer because it's the first thing on Google. So yeah, it is possible that the design is purposefully being used, and that would make sense from a lore perspective. The Mandator 2 would be a precursor to the Mandator 4, and as a note, just because the ship appears multiple times on the cover does not mean that there's actually multiple of the ship, but I'll talk about that more when we discuss puzzle covers generally. Another thing is that this obviously isn't an existing First Order ship. Even if you just glanced at the cover, if you're an editor or a quality assurance person, if you know anything about Star Wars and the First Order, this is clearly not the Resurgent or anything else. The other puzzle covers, and they're called puzzle covers because all the variants can be put together to make one image, also all have fully canonical ships. For example, Tarkin is in front of an Imperial Star Destroyer, we see Trade Federation Lucrehulks, we see Starfighters. So to me, it would be a little bit strange for the comic cover to feature a ship not actually present within. And I will also say, it wouldn't be the first time that Lucasfilm looked to fan models for canonical representations of ships. We saw it with Fractal Sponge in the Essential Guide to Warfare, but it also wouldn't be the first time that a modder, and Evil Jedi specifically, had their work co-opted. That brings me to the more realistic situation. This is a case of someone using an improper model, not crediting it, passing it off as their own design, and including it within official media. In my video where I talk about Joe Coroni, I discussed how Evil Jedi's torpedo sphere was used in official sources. Now, admittedly, this is different. Perhaps this ship is just meant to be a vague First Order Star Destroyer, and rather than being a photoshopped version of the model, it's actually the model redrawn, so I'm not saying that the exact same thing is going on here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was an artist or an art team thinking that an image was official when it actually wasn't. To me, it's just so random that a fan Star Destroyer, which was never canon, and which didn't even exist in the sequel time period in Legends, it was supposed to be a Republic era dreadnought, has now made its way onto a comic cover variant. And again, it's not a copy-pasted background ship, it's not someone taking some of Fractal Sponge's work and putting it somewhere where it can't really be seen. This is somebody actually finding the model, resketching it, and putting it in a prominent place. And that is the only thing which leads me to believe that this might be legitimate, but my overwhelming gut reaction, as well as my conversations with some in the community, lead me to believe that it's not. If it is, and the Mandator retains its Legends info, it will be a mid-sized dreadnought, an obvious precursor to the Mandator 3 and Mandator 4, and I would be very surprised if the First Order actually had a few dozen of them. If it's a mistake and this is just meant to be a Resurgent Star Destroyer or something else, all the puzzle covers will hopefully be changed before the actual release, and if they're not, the puzzle is going to just be wrong. One final option, which I haven't talked about because I can't really substantiate it, is the possibility that at some point in the creation of the Essential Guide to Warfare or another book, Evil Jedi submitted or was commissioned his Mandator design by whoever was doing that book, but it just wasn't included for whatever reason. It's possible that the artist needing a new Star Destroyer or needing a cool looking ship went back into the archives and chose to base it off this commissioned piece. But again, that's all speculation and I really don't know. Now, I know this is a variant cover, and Star Wars does weird things with covers sometimes. They have the toy line and the concept art line, but I wouldn't expect them to just go completely wild and throw in a fan Star Destroyer like this, unless it's either a mistake or a recanonization. For one final time, I would just like to reiterate that I think most likely, and I'm almost certain of this was just a mistake. The artist was looking for a reference for another ship, perhaps the Resurgent, but logically also maybe the Mandator 4, and just chose the wrong ship. They might have just searched Mandator Star Wars, and instead of using the proper ship model, they used the Mandator 2. If that's the case, I think it's understandable. However, if this is meant to be a new ship, and they based it off Evil Jedi's model without any sort of credit, then that is problematic. Either way, I think Lucasfilm needs to reconsider how they commission art, or how the publishers they work with commission art, especially as it relates to fan designs, and I think everyone can agree with that at this point. However, that's just my opinion. I'd like to hear what you guys think. Now, I've reached out to Evil Jedi and some others within the mod community, and if there are any updates and anything that I can say, I'll make sure to post about it either on Twitter, or if it's warranted, a second video. I also think Corey from Corey's Datapad and Corey Loses may do a video on this topic, so I'll link his channel down in the description. He is really into the Empire War mod community. He runs the Thrawn's Revenge mod, so he has a real insight into the situation that I don't. Anyways guys, this has been your friend and host EckhartsLadder. While we're on the topic, I probably will be streaming some modded Empire War tonight. Make sure to check that out. But until I see you next time, as always, may the Force be with you.